gentlemen, welcome to February 24th, 2021 meeting. Dallas-Bull County Planning and Zoning Commission, thank you for your presence. Appreciate you being here. Tradition will begin our meeting in prayer. God and Father in heaven, we thank you for this most beautiful day and all the blessings of it. Thank you for our health that you've given us and allowed us to live here another day. Thank you for this community we live in, this country we live in, the blessings we enjoy, the freedoms we enjoy, safety and protection you give us. We pray for all those suffering from COVID virus that they can be healed. We pray that this virus can be brought to an end, our lives can get back to normal as much as possible. Pray the decision we make here will be for betterment of this community and all those involved. Be with the servicemen and women, bless and protect them, bring them home as soon as possible. Pray for all those that are watching over and caring for us and keeping us safe, continue to guide our directions. Right, and pray, amen. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes, January 27th, 2021.
Make a motion to approve.
Jim moves we approve,
Second.
and, Steve seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve minutes. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Thank you. Financial report.
It's in your packet. I'm glad to answer the questions. We're gonna have a budget discussion later in the meeting, and Commissioner Mann is gonna walk us through that, so we'll go into finances. Quite a detail and some time of the report.
Question, discussion on the financials. We in decent standing, Steve? Okay.
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Jeff moves we approve,
I'll second.
and Terry seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve financial report. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Thank you. Item D, construction sureties.
It's just in your packet for information purposes. We did get the second year letter of credit turned in for Hunt Farm Section 4 that we approved last month, contingent on receiving it. We got that in our office after the last meeting. The other cash bond cases are, again, moving forward. Maple Tree subdivision's about finished. Bluegrass Contracting is doing that, and we'll be able to release that $18,000+ to the city once that gets invoiced from the city. No motion needed, that's just information.
Steve, that, I think it's in Maple Tree Place and someplace where there's a drainage thing.
That's the one, yes.
That is?
Yeah.
And where are we on that?
It's finished.
It's finished.
It's finished. The contractors finished the work. Might be still some grass, I don't think so. I think it's done. We just haven't got an invoice from the city at this point.
Just have to fix the, what's the say, road over with the
There are some rust down in the.
Okay, thank you.
like a heat.
Item E, subdivision approvals, and we do all these at once. Okay, please.
Yeah, that's true. We had two that were submitted after tech review that need preliminary and final approval.
So we should do 3 and then 2.
Okay,
This is gonna walk you through 5 of them.
okay, I'll do that, please.
Okay. On the first one, we have Raymond Float, who has applied to subdivide his property, creating tract 1 and 2, which totals .67 acres. So approval of this plat will be contingent upon that variance being granted in that BOA meeting.
And I'll just add on a little bit. That meeting was scheduled for this month, it had to be canceled. That was right in the middle of the storm. So that application should have already been through the Board of Adjustments. But the plan was to get the variance heard. If successful, bring the plat to you all, contingent on recording on the variance. And as Lisa mentioned, the frontage is a challenge. It was 92 feet. And our ag frontage is 50 feet, 40 feet, but our R1A frontage is 50 feet. And the R1A line kind of goes through this property. That's the city limits to it, from the city. So technically, you should have been able to make 90 feet work with a 40-foot frontage and a 50-foot. But because the R1A comes through and catches just that corner, it really became a 50 and 50 requirement. And then there's a house right there on the smaller lot that made it hard to shift that lot line to accommodate the 90-foot frontage. So they're gonna vary the frontage slightly, just a few feet to make this work. And had this all been R1A, it would have worked. But it's the split zoning that's on the rear of the track that is the reason why we had to require the 50-foot frontage on track B. And again, the Board of Adjustments has had the application ready to go. I don't anticipate any problems. It's pretty routine. But we're hoping to get it approved today. We just won't record the plat till the variance is heard. And if it fails for some reason, the plat won't be recorded.
Okay. Questions or discussion on items 1 through 3 under subdivision approvals?
I move we approve
Ter-
for subdivision 1, 2, and 3. You have a question?
Second. Terry moves, Vince seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve these items. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous, thank you. Okay, items 4 and 5, Lisa?
Item 4, we have Troy Edwards, who's applied to subdivide his property, creating a tract A from his parent tract that's out on Harrison Lane. It's a 10.032 acre tract, zoned to ag.
Thanks. Didn't have any suggestions on this plat, so it's ready for preliminary and final approval today. Next, we have Danny Holt, who's applied for the subdivision tract 8.339 acres, located at 0 Curtis Road in Gravel Switch. The lot is zoned ag. I am not super familiar with this one. He's dividing it into 2 tracts. The bottom tract primarily to be used for a easement to access other lands. There weren't any corrections to be made, so it's ready for preliminary and final approval today.
Questions or discussion on items 4 and 5? Jeff moves we approve, and Wendy seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Thank you. Item F under new business advisory committee report, and we have not met. Item 2, personnel committee report. We have met, and I'll share a discussion on that in a few moments, and we'll just go ahead and go to budget committee report and let Terry give that, and then I'll have some comments on the personnel committee report.
Yeah, the Budget Committee met with Steve, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, to talk about budget amendment number 1 for this year, as we have a budget for this year, but we're now amending the budget reflecting what we currently expect to do for the year. And if you look at this document, it's the second column on the right is the budget amendment. And then we also talked about a preliminary budget for 2022. We have to turn that into the county and city in a couple of weeks. We'll be back in front of you a month or two from now, probably giving you a final budget proposal. But this is the preliminary budget proposal. I'm not going to talk down through all these numbers. We'll take questions if you want. I'm going to talk to this document here, which is a single page that says at the top, Danville Boyle County Planning and Zoning Commission, Comparison A, Comparison B. All I'm going to do is tell you what the major changes have been from the original budget and the changes we'll be making for the preliminary budget, and just those changes that were more than $1,000. So if you take this one 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper, and if you go to the very first comparison, which is Comparison A, we're looking at our current budget for this year compared to the budget amendment that we just did. And the budget amendment, again, reflects what we really think the year is going to turn out to be, not what we budget it to turn out to be. So if you look at the first column under revenue, we originally budgeted this year for about $158,000 in revenue. If you read down through there, you'll see the changes that we're making. They're almost all increases. We're increasing the amount of revenue we're expecting. You can see the various categories. The parentheses next to it, like 7, 10, 12, are the lines, detailed lines of the detailed budget, if you do want to go back and look at it. The bottom line, Budget Amendment 1 increases our revenue this year from the budgeted of about $158,000 to about $168,000, or about a $10,000 increase in expected revenue this year. If you go over to the column to the right, under expenditures, we originally had budgeted about $198,000, $197,800 in expenditures. There's only really been a couple of changes to that in terms of our forecast. Believe it or not, the amount we have to set aside for retirement actually went down a little from what we originally budgeted. The percentage, I guess, was down a little from what we originally assumed.
The governor suspended the FY21 increase for
Yeah.
COVID and let us fall back on the prior year retirement.
And the land use and recording fees, that's just a fee that we collect. You can see it under the revenue side as well, and we pass it along to the county. And since we called it up on the left-hand side, since we're going to pass it along to the county, we have to call it up on the right-hand side as an expenditure. And so the revised expenditure estimate for this year is like $199,000, or up about $1,000. So revenue up 10, expenses up about 1,000 from our original budget to what we're forecasting now in this budget amendment number 1. And then the next comparison, B, is probably the more important one of the two. It's talking about what our preliminary budget is going to be next year. So again, I'm going to start with a budget amendment we just talked about now, which is what we think we're going to do this year. So again, we just updated our revenue forecast for this year at $168,000. Then I'm listing below that the major changes that we're making to get to the preliminary budget for next year. And the first two are the largest. One is we're assuming that the city of Danville will go back to their original contribution amount of $75,000 a year. Last year, because of COVID and the cutbacks, they cut that back to $50,000. So we're assuming in our budget this year that they're going to go back to their historical contribution to our budget. Boyle County cut us back $5,000, so we're assuming they're going to go back to their normal contribution levels. And the feedback I think that Steve has gotten for both the city and the county that we should put together the preliminary budget with the historical level of contribution in there, not what they cut us back to last year. And then the next 4 items, so zone changes, subdivision plats, site plan applications, land use and recording fees. We're calling those down slightly from what we think we're going to do this year, kind of a combination of looking at historically what those numbers have been, and there's a little conservatism in that. And so that would take us to a preliminary revenue budget of about $190,000, or about $22,000 more revenue than we are expecting to get this year, with most of that is the city and the county returning to their normal level of contribution to our budget. So go to the expenditure side. Again, a few minutes ago, we talked about our current estimate for our expenditures this year of $199,000. And then if you look at what changes we're making for the budget, the first one is salary and wages. And Jerry's going to talk to that in a second now. So Jerry, you want to talk to salary and wages? And so That's typically the responsibility of the Personnel Committee.
You want me to go now? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Personnel Committee met I'm lost track of time, last Friday, I think it was. And our main discussion was the salary for Steve. I know when he came in, we started him fairly low and told him up front that we needed some proof that he was going to be the person that we needed for this position and be able to do what we needed to have done. And I'm glad to report that he has gone beyond and above our expectations in a sense. And his main thing that I wanted to compliment Steve on publicly is his proactiveness in terms of running planning and zoning. Rather than being reactive, he's been very proactive in terms of planning, organizing, and simply doing an excellent job. So we appreciate that. However, we did decide to dock his salary because he still lives in Lincoln County, and as soon as he moves, we'll fix that. But if you weren't at the last meeting, you'll know what I'm talking about. No, that's a joke. We felt like that Steve certainly has performed excellent and deserves to be brought up closer to what our former P&Z director was working at salary-wise. So we have proposed over the next 2 years a 6.5% raise for Steve. And I will tell you that in conversation with Steve, he was reluctant to accept that and has said he really didn't think the time was right. But our decision was we want him to have it, and we think whether the time's right or not, we're making that decision to increase his salary 6.5% over the next 2 years. And so
I think as you're all aware, the city's reviewing all their salaries right now as well to make sure they've got them in a competitive range. And this brings Steve up to the midpoint, the 50% salary range for planning and zoning directors that are in our size of city. So he'll be at basically the 50% level.
So one other comment I just want to say publicly, Steve, we thank you for your work and certainly think that's well deserved.
Thank you. And I'll just point out that wage number that Commissioner Rand mentioned, that also includes Lisa's COLA in there too.
Yes.
So mine's increase will be over 2 years. Her increase is shown in that 47.70.
Yep.
For her too. And I appreciate what she's done this year too
Thank you.
during this mess.
Then we're also putting money in next year for a seasonal intern. We've had that prior, but we took it out this year because of the COVID. And the seasonal intern really helps through the summer, both with vacation coverage for our two-person office. And then also because we're hoping to do some work on the flume this year, the future land use map, and that seasonal intern will help with that flume work. Retirement contribution to the state retirement system is up almost $4,000 just using the percentage that we have to use. We didn't pay last year. This year, I guess we're going to get to pay next year.
Correct. The state's got us on a 12% increase each year. So again, we got to skip last year, but we're taking the FY '22 number. It's 26.95% retirement contribution for the wages.
And then the land use and recording fee, again, that's just a pass-through to the county. Since we called it down on the left, we call it down on the right. Then we're putting $1,000 more in for our GIS mapping data service outsource that we do to do our maps. So in anticipation, again, of the future land use map work, that we'll probably be spending a little more money with that company than we normally. Then all the other changes, if you add them all together, it's only about $1,300, and about half of that is just the FICA and Medicare increase that comes with Lisa and Steve's salary increase. So that would get us to a preliminary budgeted expense of around $209,970. So that's about an $11,000 increase in expense. We have about a $22,000 increase in revenue. And you might also, though, notice, though, if you look at our budgeted expense for next year and what we're proposing for budget revenue, it's about $20,000 short. And that is, we have about $20,000 more in expense than we're expecting in revenue. And that's been the case for the last several years. And we're just kind of continuing to draw down a reserve that we had. And eventually, we're going to have to go back to the city and county and probably ask for a little higher contribution. We haven't asked for any more from the city and the county for, I don't know, a decade or something like that. And so we may eventually be to that point. Then at the very bottom, if you're just kind of interested in what the checkbook looks like, If you look under fiscal year 2021 budget, we started this, we thought, we budgeted to start this year with $103,000 in our checking account. We were going to have revenue of $158,000. We were going to spend $197,000. So we budgeted to end the year with $63,000 in our savings account. What actually happened, what our budget amendment number 1 does, what our current forecast is, we actually started out this year with a little less, about $800 less than we originally thought in our beginning balance, once the year actually settled out to what it actually was going to be versus what we budgeted it. And then if you look at our revised estimates for this year, we expect revenue of 168, expenditures of 199, and we're going to end up with about $10,000, $8,000 more, about $71,000 in our checking account when we end the year. So that becomes our beginning balance for our preliminary budget. That's what we ended this year with, so that's what we start next year with. And then with $190,000 in revenue and $210,000 in expense, if that's the way it flows, next year we'll end up with about $50,000 in our savings account. Again, we're kind of, not savings account, but our bank account. We're kind of continuing to draw that down. So any questions or comments? I guess we need a separate motion for the budget amendment and a separate motion for the preliminary budget. I can't make the motion.
Jeff moves that we approve the preliminary budget report. And Jim seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve that preliminary budget report. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. And then secondly, we need a motion to approve the amendment for this year. And Steve moves we approve. Jeff seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all in favor? Votes unanimous. I'd like to just publicly thank Terry particularly and the Budget Committee for the fine work they have done, and certainly appreciate that. I think that's, looking back, is probably the best budget reports we've had in recent years, and we really appreciate the Budget Committee's work and the time they've put in doing so. Thank you all for that. Item 4, other new business, election of officers and committee assignments.
And there should be a packet in your, or a sheet in the packet, very last page, that shows all members, their terms, the current officers, and the current committee members, just for your reference.
So we nominate?
Floor is open for nominations, excuse me. Yes.
Make a motion, we nominate Jerry Leeper for chairman.
Vince seconds that nomination. Any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I guess nomination cease for chair. All in favor? Vote unanimous. I will make a comment. It's been a hard, long-fought campaign, but I appreciate all my supporters, and we'll have a get-together later. No, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I hope I do this chair justice, and anytime I don't, feel free to come and tell me. But appreciate your support for having me chair again. We need vice chair. I'm sorry, Jim?
Make a motion for Jeff Baird to be vice chair.
Jeff Baird's been nominated for vice chair. Any other nominations? Steve seconds. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Jeff, vice chair. I want to thank Jeff for serving as vice chair also, and the good work and help that he has been in helping us with planning and zoning. Does an excellent job, and I thank you for that, Jeff. Pay me later, but that's okay. Well, he did run out on us last month, but we'll, I guess.
Chair and vice chair, we will sign checks and flats, so both the chair and the vice chair are going to call on a regular basis when you're to sign documents for us. And that's something we do, very helpful. Jerry catches most of them, and Jeff's the backup. If Jerry's out of town, we'll get
So at this point, we need to approve or assign committees.
Yeah, and I'll just say, you know, the ones you see on the list there, technical review, personnel, budget, advisory. Those last three, Danville Transportation Committee, Jerry's named on there. I'm not sure if that's even a functional.
It hadn't been in existence since the first Main Street diet plan. Yeah, and it disappeared or ceased to function after that, and it has not functioned since.
I checked yesterday, it's still shown on the city's website, but it appears it doesn't meet very often or ever.
It hadn't met in 2 years at least.
And then the Regional Planning Council, I serve on that, that's Bluegrass Ag, it's mostly planning directors, but there are planning commissioners on there if anyone wants to serve in that role. We pretty much just do Zoom meetings every month for continuing education. That's really all we do. And then beautification's down there, we have a seat on the beautification committee. But technical review, personnel, budget, and advisories are in-house committees. Tech review looks at flats, personnel deals with, staff, personnel, evaluations, meets a few times a year. Budget, as you heard, meets mostly this time of year than before the preliminary or final, probably in June. Advisory committee, for some of the other members, that's the committee when we have big documents, comp plans, subregs, zoning ordinance, we take those text amendment changes to that committee, proof before they come to the body of the planning commission. So the future land use map project will probably route through that, and that advisory committee will be the ones to get the first look at those major map changes probably before we bring them to the full commission to consider. And historically, these have been three-person committees, but it can be whatever the planning commission desires. And, again, we've got a couple vacancies. We had a member drop off the planning commission that served on some. So at this point, in the past, it's y'all divvy them up the way you all see fit.
So we'll just start with Personnel Committee and just simply ask if there's anyone or more than one that would like to serve on that committee. Certainly welcome to do so, but the main thing we do is discuss personnel, do evaluations, obviously discuss salaries and things of that nature.
And I'll mention our personnel policies mention that the chair serves on the personnel committee, and historically the vice chair has served on that too. But the chairman serves on that committee by default.
I still will serve on that committee.
Okay.
So if it's the pleasure of the chairman.
Be fine, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to serve on that committee? Certainly feel free to speak up. If not, we'll leave it in Jeff.
Hey, Jerry,
Yes.
over here.
Yes. Sam.
I'm the new guy in the group this year.
Yeah.
And if you happen to need me to support any of these committees, I'm more than glad to, recognizing that I joined in the last month, this is my first month. I'm a little short on being able to do that effectively, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly, but I'd be more than glad to support it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, going back to personnel, it wouldn't hurt if there was a third, just in case there was a tie vote.
Right.
Very rare. That's kind of the reason we have three
Right.
committees here.
And I'm more than glad to support that item if you want to.
Okay.
That's fine. If you want to put me as a third, that could get out.
Okay.
Certainly, I have an outside view of the whole organization.
All right. Anyone else? Last chance, call, speak up, or we'll move on. Okay, hearing none, we'll put Sam on it then. Advisory Committee, I didn't have a blank for budget. I'm just gonna leave all those people on there unless somebody else wants.
Well, I'm gonna be going off,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Wendy.
so I just thought if you might wanna go ahead and
Okay, thank you, I didn't,
next month will be.
I didn't even look up and see who was rolling off and so forth. You think you won't be reappointed or you not want to be?
Well, I'm gonna be Richmond for.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Appreciate your service. Thank you for that. So, we need another person on budget. Right now, we've got Terry and Jeff. later on this year, we'll all be invited down to Wendy's, by the way. I want to tell you all that. Florida. No, we're gonna wait till you move then. We're gonna wait till after you move and get settled, then we'll be there. Anyone else on budget?
I'll point out that under the bylaws, the chairman has the authority to appoint.
I understand that. I understand that. I didn't want to get to that point, Henry, but, you know,
And Rita's not here.
I know. All right. Yes, yes. Yeah. Steve, would you be interested in doing that, please, or not? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And then advisory committee.
Again, I anticipate future land use map projects coming to this, and then we've got some changes to the subdivision regulations at some point on the technical standards of Articles 5 and 6 related to road construction. Once we get the city and the county engineers in the room, we anticipate pretty major amendments to the subdivision regulations. So that advisory committee may have a busier year prior.
Ms. Ann, would you be willing to do that, please? Would you be willing to serve on that advisory committee, please? Steve can tell you.
Well, again, we'll meet just random during the year, and we'll look at any big document changes to the zoning ordinance, subregs, or comprehensive plan. Advisory committee is just a sounding board for the staff. We bring those documents, walk you through those in sequence, and then you guys give the staff the green light, put them on the agenda for full consideration. It's a work, when we did the zoning ordinance, we spent some hours walking through every page of the zoning ordinance, and then we're past that. So it's mostly gonna be future land use map.
I thought maybe with your background as former mayor and so forth, you'd be excellent to have on that committee for the work we do. Me and Jeff? Me, Jeff Baird? I'm sorry? That's okay. Sure. Well, we'd be glad to, no problem. Yeah, all our committees are low pressure, so to speak, except for, except for Terry's, and his is a little more high pressure, I think. Okay, one will put you on, Ann, thank you. Well, I just leaving those people on there that are on there. Anybody rolling off? I assume everybody's willing to do that.
Well, Jim Boyd and I talked, and Jim is gonna assume the chairmanship of the technical review committee,
Okay,
so he and I will just split, I'll stay on it, but we'll just be chairman.
okay, thank you. All right. Vince, you're gonna still keep us beautiful? Okay, good. Okay. Anybody want to? Okay, and last but not least, the Bluegrass Ad Committee, and want to take Steve's role in that, to so speak up, more than welcome to do so.
That's right. Did you say there's continuing education?
It's continuing education every month.
Is that all it is?
You know, their technical role, they're supposed to review comprehensive plan amendments in the region. They're supposed to, really what
You okay with it, Steve? Okay. All right. So committees are set, chair and vice chair are set. I've lost my agenda. Let's see. Any other new business for the commission? Any announcements that need to be made?
Go back to Wendy, I guess,
Okay.
to add, or that sort of come up pretty quick.
Yeah, well, so next month will be my last meeting.
Okay. Well, we notify,
We talked, and the protocol would be if her, she's a city appointment, so for Wendy to notify the mayor or the city clerk.
right,
Let them know of her plans, as far as staying on the board or resigning, what she needs to do, and then the city will take it from there.
okay, good,
I
Good.
appreciate Wendy being on, I hate to see her.
Yeah.
leave. She's been on the budget committee. Been a big help in the reorganization, when we went from 3 staff members to 2, and we farmed out our finances to Daniel Wealth. Wendy played a big role in us getting reorganized with our QuickBooks, a lot of technical aspects of our finances, as we move those out of the office.
okay. Appreciate you, Wendy. Sorry to see you go. But anyway, wish you, okay. All right, any other good for the order? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn. Vince makes it. Steve or Jeff seconds, all in favor. We are adjourned. Thank you.